Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character, after dying in her previous life, wakes up inside of High School DxD. What is she gonna do inside of High School DxD as Artoria?
Highschool DxD. What if I'm Artoria Pendragon? Chapter 1. Throne of the Supreme Seraph. I opened my eyes to light. Not the light of the sun I had known in my mortal life, fractured by clouds or stained by dust, but a radiance without source or shadow. It filled the sky, the ground, the air itself, endless and steady. I drew in a breath. The air was clean, sharp, and heavy with sanctity. When I exhaled, I felt it, the resonance of power in my chest, not human, not mortal. A rush of memory struck me then, not my own, not the memories of a man who had walked the earth and died beneath steel and asphalt. No, these were vast, ordered, layered like stone. I saw halls of white stone built on light itself. I saw armies of winged beings kneeling in reverence. I saw wars fought against devils and fallen, swords clashing against black wings, shields locked in radiant walls. I saw council chambers where seraphs spoke in voices that carried judgment to all of creation. And I saw myself, no, the self of this body seated among them, not beneath them, not beside them, above them. The name came to me with finality, Artoria Pendragon. The body was hers, the wings were hers, the authority that made all other angels bow was hers, and now it was mine. I raised my hands slowly. Steel-clad fingers caught the light, silver and gold etched into the gauntlets. My form was armored, regal, flawless. And behind me I felt the spread of wings, vast and unyielding. Not two, not four, more, a host of them, radiant and without blemish. Their weight was nothing, their presence overwhelming. In my old life I had been ordinary, forgettable. Here I was supreme. The doors of the chamber opened. I turned, instinctively straight-backed, regal. Two figures entered, their wings spread in silent authority. Michael first, his face calm but his aura vast, the leader of heaven since the death of God. Behind him, Gabriel, serene and gentle, her smile carrying warmth enough to soften the light around her. Both stopped when their eyes met mine. Michael's calm eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in recognition. Gabriel's lips parted slightly in awe. "You have awakened," Michael said at last, his voice steady. I inclined my head once. My voice left me with unshakable clarity, the voice of a king and a knight. "Yes, I stand once more." The body's memories guided me, but my will was my own. I knew how I should speak, how I should carry myself, and it was exactly as I always imagined when I thought of her. Gabriel stepped forward, her hands clasped before her chest. "Your presence, it is whole again. For so long you have been silent, we feared you would never return." The memories answered her words. This body, this throne, had lain dormant since the Great War. A supreme seraph, wounded beyond repair, her essence scattered. Only now, with my rebirth, had the body risen again. Michael's gaze was heavy upon me. "Artoria, supreme among us, you return at a time of peril. Your presence will shake the balance of all three factions." I did not flinch. If balance is fragile, then it must be steadied. Heaven must not waver. Michael gave a slight nod, not dominance, not command, acknowledgement. "As always, your will is clear." Gabriel's smile returned, warm as the light around her. "Heaven has missed your guidance." I straightened fully, letting the weight of wings and armor fill the hall. The angels that had followed Michael and Gabriel now dropped to one knee, their heads bowed. They did not need command. The aura of this body was enough. I felt the memories settle fully now. I remembered the old councils, the wars fought, the burdens carried. I remembered issuing orders to armies that stretched across heaven's sky. I remembered the respect in the voices of Michael and Gabriel when they had once sought my judgment. And now, all of that was mine to wield. I spoke clearly. "Tell me the state of the world." Michael folded his hands behind his back, his voice unwavering. "God has long since fallen. We hold heaven, but we lack his will. The devils rebuild in their underworld, the fallen plot in their shadows. The three factions remain locked in silence, each unwilling to break the fragile stalemate. Gabriel's tone was softer. Peace holds, but only barely. The slightest spark may undo it. I absorbed their words. The knowledge of canon matched this moment, the world balanced on fragile lines, Ise Hayadu's tale yet to begin. And here I stood, above it, with the strength to tip the scales. Then heaven must be strong, I said. If devils or fallen believe us weakened, they will strike. We must give them no such chance. Michael inclined his head again. Your presence alone will remind them. None can mistake the return of the supreme seraph. The angels around us murmured quietly, reverent, relieved. Gabriel stepped closer, her smile touched with warmth. Your return is a blessing to us all. Will you take your place once more in the council? Yes, I answered without hesitation. It is my duty. Michael's eyes met mine again. Then heaven stands firmer than it has since his fall. The weight of the hall seemed to lift. Angels exhaled softly, their reverence deepening. For them, my return was more than strength. It was stability, authority, assurance that heaven's order endured. I allowed silence to linger a moment before I spoke again. Summon the council. We will meet. We will speak of what must be done. Michael gave a short nod. It will be done. Gabriel bowed her head, in graceful acknowledgement. The chamber echoed with the sound of angels rising to their feet, their voices raised in prayer and reverence. I stood unmoved, my gaze steady. The memories were mine now, the authority mine to wield. No longer human, no longer mortal. I was Artoria Pendragon, supreme seraph of heaven. And the world would move around me. Chapter 2. The council assembled. The summons went out at once. Messengers with wings of white crossed the vast expanse of heaven, bearing Michael's command to gather the seraphs in the grand hall. The hall itself stood at the center of heaven's spires, carved from stone that glowed faintly with its own light. Pillars rose in ordered lines, banners of gold and white hung between them, each bearing the sigil of heaven. I walked at Michael's side as we entered. Gabriel followed with calm steps, her expression serene, her hands folded before her chest. Angels lined the walls, kneeling as we passed, their heads bowed low. Their reverence was not for Michael, nor for Gabriel. Their eyes remained on me. The supreme seraph had returned, and all of heaven felt it. We reached the dais where 4 thrones stood, each carved in precise symmetry. Michael seated himself at the central throne, the one that represented leadership. To his right, Gabriel took her seat. Across from her, Raphael and Uriel had already arrived, their wings folded neatly, their eyes sharp and measuring. I moved forward, my armor catching the glow of the hall's light. My steps were even unhurried, deliberate. When I reached the dais, I did not kneel, nor did I hesitate. I took my seat at the far left, the throne that had long stood vacant since the Great War. It accepted me, as if no time had passed. The other seraphs watched in silence. Raphael's expression was composed, his voice even when he finally spoke. So it is true, you have awakened. Uriel's eyes narrowed slightly, but his tone carried no hostility. Heaven has long been without your presence. We did not expect to see you again. I placed my gauntleted hands upon the arms of my throne. My voice was steady, low, carrying to every corner of the chamber. I stand once more. Heaven's command is not divided. My duty remains unchanged. Michael inclined his head slightly, acknowledging my words. Then let us begin. The chamber settled into silence. Raphael folded his hands neatly, his gaze turning to Michael. The balance between the factions holds, but it grows thinner with each passing year. The devils are strengthening. The fallen plot. We hold our place, but without his will, our authority is strained. Uriel added, the young devils train openly. The clans grow bolder, and the fallen do not cease their whispering. They gather strays, they push at our borders. For now, they do not provoke us directly, but it is only patience that stays their hands. Gabriel's voice was calm, carrying no tension. Peace is precious, but peace will not last unless it is guarded. The others must see that we are not weak. They must be reminded of what remains. Michael's eyes turned to me then. Your return is that reminder, but we must decide how to show it. If we act with aggression, we risk shattering the stalemate. If we do nothing, the devils and fallen will act as they please. Neither path is acceptable. The hall fell into quiet again, all waiting for my answer. I did not hesitate. Strength must not be hidden, nor must it be thrown recklessly. We will not strike first, but neither will we bend. Heaven's order will stand. If devils or fallen test us, they will see clearly that their efforts mean nothing. Uriel's eyes sharpened. Then you advocate for deterrence. Yes, I said. A shield that cannot be broken, a sword that does not move unless it must. That is the way to preserve heaven without feeding needless conflict. Raphael gave a small nod. It is measured. It is consistent with our purpose. Michael's gaze did not waver from mine. And how will we show this strength? I answered without pause. The armies of heaven will march openly within our borders, not to provoke, but to remind. The fallen will see them from their shadows. The devils will hear of their movement. Neither will mistake silence for weakness. Gabriel inclined her head, her smile soft. Your resolve is as clear as it once was. It will steady the hearts of the angels. Michael finally nodded, slow and deliberate. Then it is agreed. We will remind them of heaven's strength, no more, no less. Raphael spoke again. And if devils test us, what if they move against us more directly than before? I met his gaze. Then they will be struck down, without hesitation. Uriel studied me for a moment longer before leaning back slightly in his throne. He said no more. The decision was made. The course of heaven was set, as it had been in ages past, as it would remain now with my return. The angels lining the walls straightened, their eyes bright with reverence. They had heard, and they understood. Heaven was not weakened. Heaven was not divided. I rose from my throne, my armor whispering faintly against itself. Summon the captains. They will stand before us and hear what has been decided. Heaven's will is not to be hidden in chambers alone. It must be spoken to those who carry it out. Michael inclined his head once more. It will be done. Gabriel smiled gently. Raphael gave a short nod. Uriel remained silent, but his eyes no longer held doubt. The council adjourned. As we left the dais, angels moved aside, bowing deeply as I passed. Their whispers were quiet, reverent. The supreme seraph has returned. Heaven is whole again. I did not respond to them. Words were not needed. Authority was not declared. It was known. Outside the hall, the air of heaven stretched wide and endless. Gabriel walked beside me, her smile unchanging. Your words carried strength. The others needed to hear them. My duty is to command, I said plainly. She tilted her head, her expression warm. And you do so without hesitation. That steadiness is what makes you who you are. Michael's voice came from my other side, calm and precise. You have set the course. Now it falls to us to carry it out. I looked ahead, the horizon endless, the armies of heaven already stirring in the distance. Then we will begin. Chapter 3, Envoys of Heaven. The council's decision was carried out with no delay. Heaven would not hide its strength, nor would it wield it recklessly. The first act of this course was to send an envoy to the devils. The house of Gremory had reached prominence within the underworld. Serzech, Lucifer, one of the four Satans, bore responsibility for much of their external diplomacy. If Heaven's position was to be made clear, then he would hear it from us directly. Michael stood at my side in the chamber of transit. His expression was calm, but his tone was serious. They will already know you have returned. The devils are not blind. Your presence in the underworld will confirm what they fear. You must expect both respect and suspicion. I am prepared, I replied. My voice carried no hesitation. If they seek to test me, they will find their answer quickly. Gabriel approached, her wings folded neatly, her smile soft. It is better if they see that we do not come to provoke. Your presence is already strong. Words should follow with calm. I gave her a short nod. Then I will speak with restraint, but restraint is not weakness. Michael inclined his head slightly. You understand. Without further words, the light of heaven surrounded us. The chamber's walls dissolved, replaced by the sudden press of an air heavier and darker than heaven's clean sky. The underworld stretched out before us, endless crimson skies, jagged black mountains, and sprawling cities of stone and obsidian. We stood before the gates of a fortress palace, its towers rising high, guarded by devils in dark armor. Their wings and tails shifted uneasily as they felt our arrival. Some placed their hands on their weapons, but none dared move further. The gates opened. A figure approached with deliberate steps. His crimson hair marked him immediately. Surzech Lucifer, clad in dignified attire rather than battle armor, his expression calm and measured. Behind him, another followed, Seraphal Leviathan, her long dark hair bound with a ribbon, her demeanor light on the surface but her eyes sharp. They stopped a measured distance from us. Surzech was the first to speak. Michael, Gabriel, it has been some time since you came here directly. Michael inclined his head slightly. Surzech Lucifer, Seraphal Leviathan, we come not for hostility, but for clarity. Surzech's eyes shifted to me. His expression did not change, but his posture adjusted slightly, more formal. And you, I did not expect to see you among them. I stepped forward, my armored boots pressing firmly against the stone ground of the underworld. My wings spread in controlled motion, vast and white, their presence undeniable. My voice rang clear. I am Artoria Pendragon, Supreme Seraph. My place in heaven is unchanged. You will address me as such. Seraphal blinked once, her usual light tone subdued. Supreme Seraph, I had thought you lost during the Great War. Lost, I said evenly, is not the same as gone. I stand once more, and heaven stands with me. Surzech studied me quietly. His voice, when he spoke again, was level. Then the rumors were true. Heaven's blade has returned. Michael's voice carried evenly. Her return is not meant to provoke, but the devils must understand. Heaven's strength is not diminished. We will not move against you, but neither will we allow weakness to be mistaken. Surzech nodded slightly. Your message is understood, but you must also understand our position. We have rebuilt from the Great War. We do not seek to destroy this balance. But if your return leads to reckless action, it will not be tolerated. I met his gaze without flinching. You will not need to tolerate anything. Heaven does not act in recklessness, but if devils believe we will bend, they are mistaken. Do not test us. The air between us grew heavy. The devils at the walls shifted uneasily. Seraphal's eyes darted between us, her voice quick to cut the tension. Now, let's not make this heavier than it has to be. We all know constant war benefits no one. Surzech and I have been working hard to maintain stability here. We don't want it broken. Gabriel stepped forward slightly, her presence easing the air. Then we are aligned. Peace is precious, but it cannot be sustained through silence alone. That is why we are here, to speak clearly, to show that our will is not hidden. Surzech looked to her, then to Michael, then finally back to me. Then let us continue this inside. The walls are not the place for such words. He turned, gesturing for us to follow. We entered the fortress palace. Its halls were vast, carved from black stone, lit by blue fire that flickered without heat. Devils moved aside as we passed, their eyes wary but respectful. At last we came to a chamber set for council. A long table stretched across the center, seats placed evenly along both sides. Surzech and Seraphal took their places at one end. Michael and Gabriel sat opposite. I remained standing for a moment longer, then took the seat beside Michael. My armor settled with quiet finality, my presence filling the chamber. Surzech folded his hands atop the table. Let us speak plainly. Heaven sends its leaders, including its strongest, to our doorstep. What do you want us to believe? Michael's reply was calm. that heaven does not seek war, that heaven is not weakened, and that our will is unbroken. Serzet's eyes shifted to me again. And what of you, Supreme Seraph? What do you seek here? I leaned forward slightly, my voice cutting through the air. To remind devils of truth. Heaven does not bend. It does not yield. If you desire peace, then keep it. If you desire conflict, then you will find your answer swiftly. The silence after my words was sharp. Seraphol gave a small sigh, her tone carrying a faint mix of seriousness and frustration. You're as stiff as the stories said, but I can't say you're unclear. Still, if you want peace, you need to show more than just threats. Devils won't bow to warnings alone. Gabriel smiled gently. It is not bowing we ask of you, only acknowledgement. If both sides walk in clarity, then peace will not falter. Serzech studied us for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Very well. Heaven's position is heard. We will continue to honor the balance. But know this, devils will not be cowed. We have changed since the Great War. We will not be dismissed as weak. I held his gaze. Then show your strength through restraint, not through provocation. Do that, and you will not find us as enemies. The chamber settled. The message was given, the response made. The balance was unchanged, but it was no longer silent. Serzech rose from his seat. Then our meeting is concluded. You have made your return known. The rest will be judged by actions, not words. I stood as well, my wings shifting once before folding neatly. Then act wisely. That is all that is required. Michael and Gabriel rose beside me. Seraphol followed Serzech as he turned to leave. As we exited the hall, the eyes of devils followed us with unease. They had seen, they had felt. The Supreme Seraph stood among them again. We did not linger. Chapter 4. The Fallen's Inquiry. The audience with the devils had ended, yet word of it spread with speed. Even in the underworld, whispers moved quickly. The Supreme Seraph had returned, not a rumor, not a forgotten story, but present and standing at Michael's side. It was inevitable that the fallen would answer. We returned to the neutral grounds that marked the border between heaven and Grigori's territories. There, in a valley where the land bore no banner, we agreed to meet their leader. Azazel himself had sent word. He wished to see me with his own eyes. Michael and Gabriel stood with me at the appointed place. The valley was barren, its ground cracked and dry, its sky overcast in muted greys. The air carried no warmth, no sanctity, no corruption. It was empty. That was why it had been chosen. Michael's expression was calm, but I could sense the measured weight in his voice. Azazel does not move without reason. He will want to judge for himself what your presence means. His curiosity is not without danger. I adjusted the position of my gauntlets, the plates of steel and silver locking neatly. He may look, he may speak, but he will not test me. If he values the survival of his people, he will restrain himself. Gabriel's hands rested lightly before her. Her smile was calm, her tone soft. Azazel is clever, but not reckless. He will weigh every word carefully. He may even seek to disarm with humor. I gave her a short nod. Then he will learn that such efforts find no purchase here. Wings stirred in the distance. Shadows broke across the sky as figures approached. Their aura was distinct, fallen grace, light corrupted but not extinguished. Their leader walked at the front, clad in a simple coat, his presence casual. His dark hair stirred in the wind, his expression a smile that did not reach his sharp eyes. Azazel. Behind him, a number of his lieutenants spread their wings. Each was cautious, their eyes fixed upon me more than Michael or Gabriel. They had heard, and now they saw. Azazel slowed his steps as he neared. His smile widened faintly. Well, well, I didn't want to believe the rumors, but here you are, the Supreme Seraph herself, standing again after so long. I stepped forward, my armor catching the muted light of the grey sky. My wings spread, their radiance pushing back the dullness of the valley. My voice carried with unyielding clarity. I am Artoria Pendragon, supreme among the seraphs. You will speak with respect. Azazel lifted his hands in mock surrender, though his tone remained light. No disrespect intended. I'm only surprised. For centuries, the strongest of heaven's blades was silent. Now you return, and you appear at my doorstep. You must know that puts me in a difficult position. Michael's tone was level, measured. Your position is unchanged, Azazel. Heaven does not seek to strike you down, but neither will we allow your shadows to creep unchecked. Azazel chuckled softly, folding his arms. Straight to business, as always. But I'm not interested in Michael's careful words. I'm interested in you. His gaze fixed on me. What does the Supreme Seraph intend now that she's back? Do you plan to finish what the Great War started? Or are you here to make sure no one forgets heaven still has fangs? I met his eyes without the faintest change in expression. Heaven does not forget. It does not forgive, but it does not strike without cause. If you remain within your bounds, then you will not find me at your gates. But if you cross them, then I will be the one to end you. The smile lingered on his face, but I saw the weight in his eyes sharpen. His voice was quieter now, stripped of humor. So the stories weren't exaggerated. You really are as absolute as they said. Gabriel stepped forward gently, her presence softening the weight of the words. Azazel, this meeting is not meant for threats alone. Peace is fragile, but peace is still possible. Azazel looked at her with faint amusement, then back to me. Possible, yes. But when someone like you appears again, the whole balance tilts. Devils will take notice. Fallen will take notice. Humans will take notice. You can't expect me to pretend nothing has changed. Michael's gaze did not shift. Nothing changes unless one of us chooses to break the silence. That is why we are here, to make clear that heaven will not do so. I spoke again, each word crisp and steady. And if you do, then heaven will answer in full. That is the only balance that exists. Azazel studied me for a long moment. His wings shifted slightly, a faint tension in his stance. Then slowly his smile returned. You really are difficult, aren't you? No room for games, no room for talk beyond duty. That makes diplomacy interesting. You may speak as you wish, I said, my tone unchanging. But know this, your words will not sway me. Only your actions matter. His lieutenants stirred uneasily behind him, their whispers low. Even among the fallen, the weight of my presence was clear. Azazel let out a quiet sigh, almost theatrical. Very well. Then let's put it plainly. Grigori has no intention of starting another war. I have no desire to watch my people slaughtered in another endless conflict. If you're only here to say heaven stands firm, then message received. Michael inclined his head slightly. That is enough. Then we leave here with clarity. Gabriel's smile softened again, and with hope, even if fragile. Azazel's eyes lingered on me one last time. Still, I have to say, I'm curious. You're stronger than Michael. You might even be stronger than me, and I don't say that lightly. For now, I'll leave it at that. But one day, I'd like to see it for myself. My voice cut evenly across the air. If you test me, you will not survive it. He laughed once, short and low. I thought you'd say that. With a sweep of his wings, he turned. His lieutenants followed, casting wary glances over their shoulders as they departed. The valley fell silent once more. Michael exhaled quietly, his expression unchanged. He has heard us. That is all that was needed. Gabriel tilted her head, her smile faint. He hides his worry behind words, but he understands. He will not provoke us now. I folded my wings behind me, the steel of my armor settling with the motion. Then the matter is closed. Let him think and speak as he will. It changes nothing. Michael inclined his head slightly. Then we return. The light of heaven began to gather once more, and the barren valley dissolved. Chapter 5. The First Trifaction Assembly. After the meeting with Azazel, the air in heaven shifted. The devils had seen me. The fallen had spoken with me. Both sides understood the truth now. The Supreme Seraph stood again. The natural consequence was unavoidable. The leaders of the three factions would meet sooner than they had intended. Michael's voice carried through the chamber as he spoke with me alone. Azazel will press for talks. Surzech will not resist. They both know balance is unstable, and your presence sharpens it further. If this is to happen, it must be on neutral ground. The human world is the only choice. I gave him a short nod. Then we will go. If heaven's will is to be heard, I will speak it myself. Gabriel, who stood nearby, folded her hands lightly. Her smile was serene. It is better this way. If each side speaks plainly, then misunderstanding will not fester, and with you present, none will doubt our resolve. I looked to them both, then summoned them, let there be no delay. The summons were accepted. The place was chosen, an abandoned cathedral, its stones old and worn, situated in a neutral stretch of land within the human world. The building itself was stripped of sanctity, long abandoned, yet its walls still stood. That made it acceptable to all sides. We arrived first. Michael walked with calm dignity, his presence filling the ruined nave without effort. Gabriel followed, gentle as ever, her radiance softening the weight of the air. I stepped forward with them, my armored form unshaken by the decay of the place. My wings folded neatly behind me, but their radiance made the cracked stones seem less empty. Not long after, the air shifted. Magic surged, heavy and structured. Devils arrived in ordered flash, their auras sharp against the ground. At their center walked Surzech Lucifer, calm and controlled, his crimson hair unmistakable. At his side, Seraphal Leviathan moved with lightness in her step, though her eyes were cautious. Behind them, officials of the underworld followed at a respectful distance. A second disturbance followed shortly after. The fallen descended, wings spread in dark arcs. Azazel led them, his hands shoved casually into his coat pockets, his expression unreadable but his eyes sharp. A handful of his lieutenants followed, watchful, their presence carefully measured. They approached with care. The three factions stood beneath the ruined arches of the cathedral. The air was heavy with silence. Surzech spoke first, his tone even. So, it seems none of us could ignore the moment. Better that we meet here than allow suspicion to grow. Azazel chuckled lightly, though his voice carried weight beneath the humor. For once, I agree. Words are cheaper than blood, after all. Michael inclined his head slightly. Then let us speak. The long table had been set in the center of the nave. Each side took their seats. Michael, Gabriel, and I at one side, Surzech and Seraphal opposite. Azazel placed himself between, his lieutenants at his back. The meeting began. Surzech folded his hands before him. His eyes moved from Michael to Gabriel, then settled on me. Heaven has made its stance clear. The Supreme Seraph has returned, and you have chosen to reveal this openly. That fact alone changes everything. Azazel leaned back in his chair, his smile faint. Changes, yes, for better or worse. That's what we're here to decide. Michael's tone was calm, steady. Nothing changes unless one of us chooses it. Heaven will not strike. We will not seek war, but we will not allow peace to be mistaken for weakness. Azazel's eyes flicked toward me, his smile widening slightly. You certainly aren't weak. That much I've confirmed for myself. So tell me, Artoria Pendragon, what do you want from this? What is your intent now that you've returned? I met his gaze, my voice cutting across the hall with clarity. My intent is the same as it was before. Heaven stands. It will not yield. If you wish peace, then it will hold. If you seek conflict, then it will be answered. Nothing more, nothing less. Seraphal leaned forward slightly, her lips pressing together. So direct, just like the stories. She exhaled, her tone sharper. But we need more than just reminders of strength. If this meeting is to mean anything, then there must be some form of understanding. Otherwise, this is nothing more than posturing. Gabriel's voice was calm, soothing. Understanding is what we seek. Heaven does not desire endless war, but it cannot be peace if it is built on silence. We must speak plainly, here and now. Surzech studied Gabriel for a moment, then looked to Michael. Then I will speak plainly. The devils have rebuilt. The clans grow, the young rise in power. We will not allow heaven to dictate our strength. But we also do not seek to undo this fragile balance. If peace is possible, then we will pursue it. That is my stance. Azazel chuckled under his breath. Straightforward. Fine, I'll do the same. The fallen have no desire to throw ourselves into another great war. I don't care to see my people slaughtered over old grudges. If peace is possible, I'll take it. But don't mistake that for obedience. Michael's eyes turned to me, yielding the floor. I placed my gauntlets against the table, the steel ringing softly against the wood. My voice carried evenly. Then you both understand what must follow. Heaven will not dictate your strength, nor will we demand submission. But know this, if either of you believes that peace gives you leave to break the order, then you will find me waiting. That is the boundary you will not cross. The room grew still. My words hung in the air without flourish, without threat, only certainty. Sirzetch's expression did not shift, though his eyes held a quiet weight. Then that is where we stand. Devils will not provoke you, but we will defend ourselves if pressed. Azazel shrugged lightly. And I'll keep my people in line, mostly. You know us. We're not saints, but we'll avoid tipping the balance if you do the same. Gabriel smiled faintly. Then we are agreed. None of us desire war. None of us will move without cause. Michael inclined his head once. So let it be spoken. The silence stretched again, heavy but less hostile than before. Each faction had spoken. No one had yielded, but no one had chosen escalation either. Azazel leaned forward suddenly, his eyes narrowing slightly at me. Still, I have to ask, if you're stronger than Michael, stronger than anyone else here, why settle for this? Why not finish the war you once fought? I met him without hesitation, because victory without necessity is meaningless. Duty demands restraint, but if tested, restraint ends. For the first time, Azazil's smile faded completely. He leaned back slowly, exhaling. Clear enough. Sirzetch rose from his seat. Then our meeting is done. We will return to the underworld with this understanding. Azazel stood as well, adjusting his coat. And I'll return to Grigori. I've heard enough. Michael and Gabriel rose with me. None bowed, none lowered their heads. Equals stood across from equals, the weight of the balance resting on words spoken here. The devils departed in their magic circle of crimson light. The fallen spread their wings and vanished into shadow. Only when they were gone did Michael speak quietly. It is a beginning. Gabriel's smile returned, gentle, and it is enough for now. I turned from the empty table, my armor shifting softly. Then heaven will remain ready. If peace holds, we will not move. If it does not, we will answer. Michael gave a single nod. Then it is settled. We left the cathedral, the ruined walls standing silent once more. Chapter 6. The Sword-Bearer's Disciple. The cathedral had fallen silent once the devils and fallen departed. Their words lingered in the air, but the matter was settled. For now. Michael spoke to me as we walked beyond the old stones. The tri-faction contact was necessary, but our presence in the human world must be strengthened. There are agents already placed there. One of them is worthy of your notice. You will meet her. Gabriel smiled faintly at his words. She has a bright heart, brave, kind, and deeply loyal. She will welcome your presence. I looked at Michael evenly. This agent, who is she? He answered without hesitation. Irina Shidu, a believer's child, raised in the church, entrusted with the work of heaven. She serves now in Kuo. Gabriel added softly. She was raised alongside another, Zenobia Quarter. Together they act for us in the human world, but it is Irina who has the lighter spirit. I gave a short nod. Then I will meet her. If she is trusted with heaven's will on earth, she must stand prepared. The human world greeted me again, though I had only touched its surface briefly during the meeting. The air here was heavy with ordinary scents, asphalt, dust, faint traces of grass carried on the wind. Night had fallen, but street lamps cast pale light across empty roads. The sound of cicadas was faint in the distance. I walked forward with purpose. Michael and Gabriel did not accompany me this time. This meeting was mine alone. The church stood at the edge of the town, its spire reaching toward the night sky. The building was worn but not abandoned, its lamps burning with faint light within. I stepped to the door and pushed it open. Inside, the air was quiet. The scent of candle wax hung lightly. Benches stretched in neat rows toward the altar at the front. A figure knelt before it, her hands clasped, her head bowed in prayer. She turned at the sound of my steps. Her hair was long and chestnut brown, her eyes a warm amber. The simple white and blue of her attire marked her clearly as one of heaven's agents, though her features carried a brightness not dulled by the severity of her work. She blinked once, then rose quickly to her feet. Her words caught, her voice filled with surprise. She straightened herself immediately after, placing her hand against her chest. Forgive me. I am Irina Shidu, agent of heaven. I welcome you. I stepped forward, my armored form catching the light of the candles. My wings spread behind me, filling the chamber with their radiance. My voice carried evenly. I am Artoria Pendragon, Supreme Seraph. I have come to see you. Her eyes widened. For a moment she seemed overwhelmed, her breath caught in her throat. Then she bowed low, her expression earnest. It is an honor beyond words. I never imagined I would stand before you. I studied her quietly. Raise your head. She obeyed quickly, though her eyes still shone with awe. Michael has spoken of you, I said. You are entrusted with heaven's work in this place. You serve as its hand in the human world. That is no small duty. Her voice steadied, though emotion lingered. I will not fail it, I swear it. I looked to the altar behind her, its cross simple, unadorned. Your resolve is clear, but words are not enough. Service demands more. I will see your readiness for myself. Irina's expression sharpened. She straightened her stance, her hand moving to the hilt of the sword at her side. Then test me as you see fit. I will not falter. I extended my hand, and in an instant the holy blade materialized in my grasp. Its edge gleamed with authority, its weight familiar, its presence undeniable. The air around us shifted. Irina's breath caught faintly, but she drew her own blade without hesitation. Then I will meet you. The clash was swift. She lunged forward, her strike earnest, her form disciplined. Her blade met mine in a sharp ring of steel. I did not move with full strength, only enough to meet her blow. Her eyes held determination, her grip steady. I turned her strike aside with controlled precision and advanced. She retreated one step, then struck again. Her movements were practiced, trained with devotion, yet they lacked the weight of true battle. She fought with faith, not with certainty. I pressed her harder. The sound of steel echoed through the church, sharp and clean. She blocked, parried, her breath quickening, but her spirit did not waver. Even as my strikes grew heavier, she did not falter in heart. At last I halted, my blade lowered. Irina stood before me, her chest rising with hurried breaths. Sweat marked her brow, but her grip on her weapon was firm. She had not yielded. I sheathed my weapon in one motion, the steel vanishing from my hand. Enough. Irina straightened quickly, lowering her own blade. She looked to me with clear eyes, still breathing hard. You are unrefined, I said plainly. Your form is disciplined, but your strikes lack weight. You fight with faith, but not with certainty. That must be corrected. Yet your resolve is true. You did not falter. That is your strength. Her breath steadied. Her lips pressed together, then curved faintly. Then I will train harder. I will make my strikes carry certainty. I won't disappoint you. I gave a short nod. Then see that you do not. For a moment, silence filled the church again. Irina looked at me, her eyes shining not with fear but with determination. At last she spoke again, her voice quieter. Michael said you had returned, but I didn't understand what that meant until now. Seeing you, it makes everything real. Heaven feels stronger just because you're here. I regarded her evenly. Heaven's strength is not mine alone. It is the will of all who serve it. You are part of that will. Do not forget it. She nodded quickly, her expression earnest. Yes. I turned from her then, stepping toward the door. Your duty continues here. Hold to it. I will return when I deem it necessary. Yes, Supreme Seraph. Her voice was firm, her posture straight. I left the church, the night air meeting me once more. The cicadas still sang faintly, the lamps still burned along the road. The human world was quiet, but its quiet would not last. Chapter 7. Stationed in Quo. Michael's decision was final. Artoria, he said, his voice calm, even. Your presence in the human world is required. Quo has become a point of tension. Devils move there openly. Fallen seek influence. The balance is fragile. You will remain stationed there as heaven's authority. I inclined my head. Then I will hold it. None will mistake heaven's absence in Quo. Gabriel placed her hand against her chest, her smile soft. Your presence will give courage to those already working there. Irina and Zenobia will not stand alone, and the devils will understand that heaven watches. I will make it clear, I said. The human world again. This time I did not come only for a meeting or a test. This was deployment. The town of Quo was quiet on the surface. Streets lined with shops, families moving with the rhythm of their lives, schoolyards filled with voices. Yet beneath this ordinary flow, the aura of devils lingered, faint but undeniable. Their strongholds were here, their young heirs lived openly among mortals. It was the center of their influence in Japan. And now it was where I would stand. The church that Irina used as her base became mine as well. Its spire rose modestly, its walls worn but solid. Inside, the benches stretched neatly before the altar, candles burning faintly. It was small compared to the halls of heaven, yet it was enough. Irina greeted me at the door. She straightened quickly, bowing her head. Supreme Seraph, you honor this place with your presence. I stepped past her, my boots echoing softly against the stone floor. This place is now under my watch. You will continue your duties here. I will see that they are upheld. Yes, she said firmly. At the back of the hall, another figure waited. Her blue hair marked her easily. Zenobia Quarter, clad in her uniform of heaven's agents, stood with her arms crossed, her gaze sharp. She studied me openly, her expression unreadable. So it's true, Zenobia said at last. The Supreme Seraph has returned. I didn't believe it when Irina told me. Irina looked flustered, her hands waving slightly. Zenobia, you shouldn't. I raised my hand, and Irina fell silent. I met Zenovia's gaze directly. You may believe what you wish. The truth does not change. Zenovia's lips pressed together. For a moment her eyes hardened. Then she lowered her head slightly. Forgive me, my words were careless. I will not doubt again. You will learn, I said plainly. Doubt is natural, but it must not linger when duty is before you. Her voice steadied. Understood. The following days passed with order. I remained within Quo, moving between the church and the quiet streets, observing, watching. The devils of this town did not yet confront me, but I felt their presence. Their auras lingered around the academy where their heirs attended. At night I walked the streets. Irina often accompanied me, her steps lighter, her spirit bright even in silence. Zenobia followed as well, her eyes sharp, always scanning the shadows. They were faithful, but they were not yet tempered. One evening, Irina spoke as we walked. Supreme Seraph, if I may, the devils here, the Gremory family, they're not openly hostile. They live quietly, even if they act within their own order. Should we treat them as enemies? I answered without hesitation. They are devils. That is enough to warrant vigilance. But we do not strike without cause. If they do not move against us, we will not move against them. But if they falter in restraint, we will end it swiftly. Irina nodded quickly, accepting the answer. Zenobia gave a short sound of agreement, her hand resting against her weapon. The nights remained quiet. It was on the fourth day that the first test came. A presence stirred at the edge of the town, not human, not angel, not restrained. A stray devil. Its aura spread, heavy with corruption, sharp with violence. Mortals would not sense it, but the night grew tense with its malice. I stopped at once. My hand closed around the hilt of my sword as it formed, its weight filling the air. Irina and Zenobia both drew their blades, their eyes narrowing. "It's close," Irina whispered. "Too close," Zenobia muttered. I gave a single command: "With me." We moved through the streets with swift precision, our steps silent, the mortals unaware of the danger near them. The aura grew sharper as we approached the outskirts of the town. At last, we found it. The stray devil stood in the ruin of an old factory. Its form was twisted, once human-like, but now monstrous, wings malformed, claws extended. Its eyes glowed with hunger and madness. It hissed when it saw us, its body shifting forward with violent intent. I stepped ahead of Irina and Zenobia, raising my sword. My voice cut across the ruin. "Stray devil, your existence ends here." It lunged, claws tearing through stone and steel. I moved to meet it. The clash was instant. My blade cut through its strike, the force sending it crashing back against the wall. The building shook with the impact. Irina and Zenobia advanced, their blades ready. They struck at its sides, coordinated and sharp. The devil howled, its form writhing as holy steel cut into it. Yet it resisted, its claws striking wildly, its wings beating with fury. I raised my blade, channeling my will into its edge. Light surged, steady and absolute. With one strike, I cut through its body cleanly. The howl ended in silence. The form dissolved, its corruption erased. The ruin grew quiet again. Irina exhaled sharply, lowering her blade. "It's over." Zenobia sheathed her weapon, her expression calm but resolute. It was strong, but against us it had no chance. I turned to them, my blade dissolving in my grasp. "You fought with discipline, but do not allow victory to soften your vigilance. One battle does not end the war." Irina nodded quickly. "Yes, Supreme Seraph." Zenobia inclined her head. "Understood." I looked back to the ruin where the devil had fallen. Its presence was erased, its corruption undone. The streets are safe again, for now. We returned to the church. The next morning, word reached me through Irina. A message had arrived from heaven. "Supreme Seraph," she said as she handed me the sealed parchment, her expression serious. "It's from Michael." I broke the seal and read. The words were clear, written with precision. "Remain in Cuo. Watch over the town. The devils of Gremory and Citri move openly there, but they have not broken the balance. Do not provoke without cause. Observe. Protect heaven's agents. Ensure heaven's authority is known." I set the parchment down. "The order is clear. We remain." Irina looked relieved. "Then we'll stay at your side." Zenobia gave a short nod. "We'll carry it out." And so, Cure became my post. By day, I watched from the church, my eyes turning often toward the academy where the devils gathered. By night, I patrolled, erasing threats that dared appear. Irina and Zenobia followed my lead, their discipline sharpening with each step. The devils had not yet confronted me, but I knew they felt my presence. They would move soon. When they did, I would be ready. Chapter 8. Shadows in Cuo. The nights in Cuo were never truly silent. The human world covered itself in quiet after dusk, but beneath it, movements stirred. Devils moved within their circles of power. Mortals went on with their lives, unaware of the presence of beings that walked among them. And in the corners where neither devil nor angel held sway, the fallen lingered. It was Irina who first brought the news. She approached me at the church altar, her steps quick, her expression sharp. "Supreme Seraph, we've confirmed activity. Fallen agents have been seen on the edge of town. A cluster, not strays. They're watching the area closely." I turned from the altar to face her fully. My gauntleted hands rested at my sides. "How many?" "3, maybe 4, she answered. "Not full carders, but not weak either. Their auras are hidden, but not well enough." Zenobia stepped in from the door, her hand already resting on the hilt of her sword. Her eyes narrowed. If they're here in groups, then it's not coincidence. They're moving deliberately. Either they're watching devils or they're watching us. I nodded once. Then we will confront them directly. Irina hesitated slightly, then steadied herself. Do we take them alive, or? My voice carried no doubt. If they resist, they will fall. If they yield, we will judge. That is the order. Zenobia inclined her head sharply. Understood. Irina pressed her hand against her chest, her expression firm. Yes, Supreme Seraph. We moved at night, our steps silent, our presence concealed from mortals. The town's lights grew dimmer as we left its center, the streets quieter, until only the faint sound of insects filled the air. At the edge of Kuo, the ruins of old warehouses and factories stretched into the dark, their walls cracked, their windows broken. It was here the fallen gathered. Their aura reached us before their forms did. It was distinct, corrupted light, sharp, restless. Not the clean presence of angels, nor the dense pressure of devils. It was a broken reflection, fractured and unstable. I raised my hand. Irina and Zenobia halted behind me. 3 figures emerged from the shadows of the ruined buildings. Each bore wings of black, feathers trailing faint light warped with corruption. Their clothes were unrefined, coats, chains, armor taken from scattered places. Their eyes shone faintly in the dark, their expressions wary but hostile. The one at the center stepped forward. His hair was dark, his face set in a sharp grin. So it's true. Heaven sent its night to Kuo, the Supreme Seraph herself, walking the human world. I stepped forward, my armor catching the moonlight, my wings unfolding in full. My voice cut the air. You are fallen. Speak your purpose here. He chuckled, but his eyes stayed sharp. Purpose, observation, we watch, we learn. Devils swarm this place, angels send their pawns, and now you stand here yourself. Did you expect us to stay away? Zenobia stepped forward, her sword half drawn. If you call yourself watchers, then why move so close to mortals? This is not your ground. The fallen's grin widened faintly. Maybe not, but mortals don't see, they don't know, so what does it matter? Irina's voice rose, sharp with anger. It matters because your presence endangers them. If you bring conflict here, they'll be caught in it. The fallen tilted his head, amusement flickering across his face. Then maybe you should keep your war out of their town. I lifted my blade, summoning it into existence. Its holy light spread across the ruins, steady, absolute. The fallen's grin faltered slightly at its presence. You speak without caution, I said, but your actions are what matter. You will leave Kuo. If you resist, you will fall here. The one at the center narrowed his eyes, his wings twitching slightly. The 2 at his sides shifted, their weapons drawn. One bore a spear of dark light, the other a jagged blade. So that's it, the leader muttered. Heaven's answer is always the same. Threaten, demand, cut down. Maybe it's time someone reminded you the world has changed. I raised my blade into guard. My voice was cold and steady. Then remind me if you dare. The clash began, without another word. The fallen with the spear lunged first, his weapon crackling with dark light. I stepped forward, my blade meeting it with a clear ring. The force of the strike sent sparks through the air, but his weapon shattered under the pressure of my counter. He staggered back, wings beating hard to recover. The one with the jagged blade came next, slashing downward with force. I turned aside, my armor unyielding, and struck across his chest with a swift arc. Light tore through him, his cry sharp and cut short as he fell. Irina and Zenobia moved together against the leader. His wings flared wide, blades of dark energy forming in his hands. He struck with speed, forcing both of them back. Their swords clashed against his weapons, their discipline keeping them in step, but his strength was greater. I advanced. The leader turned as my presence closed in, his eyes flashing with tension. He crossed his blades to meet my strike. My sword cut through both, the fragments dissolving into the night. His eyes widened as I pressed forward, my next strike stopping just short of his chest. He froze, his wings trembling. "You are finished," I said. My voice carried no anger, only finality. "Leave Kuo. Do not return. If you do, you will not rise again." Irina held her blade ready at his side, her eyes sharp. Zenobia stood firm on the other, her breath steady. The fallen leader clenched his jaw, his gaze shifting between the three of us. At last, his wings lowered slightly. He stepped back, his posture stiff. "Fine," he said, his tone bitter. "We'll leave, but don't think this ends anything. Devils still move here, fallen still watch. You can't cut us all down." "You will not test me again," I answered. He gave a short laugh, strained but defiant. Then he spread his wings and took to the air, the other surviving fallen following him into the night. The ruins fell silent again. Irina exhaled sharply, lowering her sword. "They're gone." Zenobia sheathed her weapon, her eyes still narrowed. "For now, but he's right. They'll be back, or others will. Kuo draws them in like a fire." I dismissed my blade, the light fading from my hand. "Then we will be here. They may return, but they will not find weakness." Irina smiled faintly despite her tension. "With you here, Supreme Seraph, I don't think they'll find much of anything." "Your vigilance remains," I said plainly. "That is enough." We turned back toward the town, our steps steady, the night once again quiet. Chapter 9. Crimson Air Approaches. The night had grown still again after the fallen's retreat. The ruin of the factory lay silent, the stench of corruption fading as the last traces of their aura vanished into the air. Irina and Zenobia stood at my sides, their breaths steadying as we turned toward the road back to the church. But before we had gone far, another presence stirred. It was not fallen, it was not human. The aura was structured, controlled, but distinctly devil. Not the instability of strays, but the measured strength of nobility. I raised my hand. Irina and Zenobia stopped at once, their hands moving instinctively to their blades. Their eyes shifted toward the direction of the approaching power. Wings did not appear. Instead, steps approached with deliberate calm. Figures emerged from the shadows of the street, their movements organized, their presence undeniable. At the center was a young woman with long crimson hair flowing behind her, her blue-green eyes sharp, her expression steady. Ria's Gremory, heir of her house and leader of her peerage. Her servants followed. Akino Heimjima with her quiet smile and aura of restrained power. Kiba Yuyuto with calm composure, his hand close to his sword. Koniko Tauju with her small form, silent and sharp-eyed. They stopped at a measured distance. Ria stepped forward one pace. Her tone was formal, even. "Supreme Seraph, I am Ria's Gremory. I came because word reached me that fallen were moving in my territory, and I hear that you are the one who dealt with them." I faced her fully, my wings folding neatly against my back, my armor still bearing the faint sheen of battle. My voice carried clearly across the space. "I am Artoria Pendragon, Supreme Seraph of Heaven. The fallen came uninvited. Their existence in Kuo is ended." Ria's eyes narrowed slightly. She held her composure, but the weight of my presence pressed on her and her servants alike. Kiba's shoulders stiffened, his eyes watchful. Akino's smile lingered, though her gaze sharpened faintly. Koniko said nothing, her stance tense. Ria's inclined her head slightly. "Then I will thank you for removing them. Fallen wandering in Kuo are a danger not only to Heaven's agents, but to my own people." Irina stepped forward quickly, her voice rising with a mix of pride and defense. "Supreme Seraph did more than remove them. She drove them from Kuo entirely. They would have caused disaster if not for her." Zenobia remained silent, though her eyes remained fixed on the devils with open caution. Ria's gaze flicked briefly to Irina before returning to me. "Then it seems we share an interest in keeping this town free of such disturbances. But I must ask, what is your purpose here, Supreme Seraph? Kuo is my territory. Devils govern it. Heaven has not placed a presence this strong here before." I did not flinch. I did not soften my voice. Heaven watches. That is my purpose. I will not interfere with your mortals. I will not provoke without cause. But know this, if devils break restraint, I will act. The silence that followed was sharp. Ria's expression hardened slightly. Aquino tilted her head, her smile faint but edged. Kiba shifted, his hand tightening faintly at his hilt. Koniko's eyes flicked toward Ria's, waiting for her response. Ria's straightened her posture. Her tone remained formal, but her pride was clear. I understand your stance, but know this, Supreme Seraph, my people are under my protection. If you act against them without cause, then I will answer. That is my duty as a Gremory. I stepped forward one pace, the steel of my boots striking against the cracked pavement. My presence pressed heavier into the air. Then hold your devils in restraint, and you will not see my blade. Fail, and your name will not shield you. Her peerage tensed visibly, but Rias herself held firm. She did not step back, though her jaw tightened. Her voice was steady, measured. Then we are clear. I will not falter in my duty, nor will you. Irina looked tense, her hands clenched at her sides. Zenobia remained poised, her eyes never leaving the devils. At last, Rias gave a short nod. Then we will not interfere with one another. Kyo will remain stable. That is what matters. I lowered my hand from the hilt of my blade, my stance unshaken. Then see that it is so. Rias turned to her servants. We are leaving. Kiba gave a short bow of acknowledgement, his eyes lingering briefly on me before following. Koniko's gaze flicked back one last time, unreadable, before stepping with them. Aquino's smile lingered faintly as she turned, but the tension in her aura was sharp. Rias walked with steady steps, her hair catching faintly in the night wind. She did not look back again. The devils vanished into the distance, their auras fading as they returned to their own ground. Irina exhaled sharply, her shoulders relaxing once they were gone. That was tense. Zenobia finally sheathed her weapon, though her eyes remained sharp. The Gremory heir herself, she's dangerous, but she didn't step beyond words. I looked at them both, my voice steady. Words are not strikes. That was enough. She understands my presence. She will think carefully before moving again. Irina's eyes still held unease. But she won't forget either. Devils have pride. She won't let your words pass without weight. She will carry them, I said. That is what matters. Zenobia inclined her head. Then we remain ready. Yes, I said. Always. The night ended without further disturbance. By dawn, the town was awake again. Mortals walked their streets, unaware of the confrontation that had passed hours before. The balance remained intact, but the weight of my presence was now undeniable to the Gremory peerage. At the church, Irina brought fresh reports from heaven. She laid the sealed parchment before me with both hands. A message, Supreme Seraph. Michael has received word of the confrontation. He asks for your account. I broke the seal and read. The script was clear. Ria's Gremory has acknowledged you. She has not moved against you. Your words will weigh on her. Remain in Kyo. Observe. Protect. If devils or fallen act beyond restraint, you will judge them. I set the parchment aside. Then nothing changes. We remain. Irina nodded quickly, her expression firm. Zenobia gave a short sound of agreement, her arms crossing. Prepare yourselves, I said to them both. This was only the first step. The devils will move again. The fallen will return. Heaven's presence here will not be ignored. We will meet each moment without hesitation. Yes, Supreme Seraph, they answered together. Chapter 10. The Vatican's Call. The parchment arrived in the early morning, sealed with the cross of the church. Irina carried it into the church hall with both hands, her face solemn. Supreme Seraph, she said, placing it before me on the altar. The Vatican has requested your presence. It carries Michael's authority. I broke the seal and read. Artoria Pendragon. The human church seeks audience with you in Rome. Your presence is required to confirm heaven's strength and to guide those who serve in his name. Travel at once. Irina Shidu and Zenobia Quarter will accompany you as your guard and retinue. I set the parchment aside. Then we go. Irina nodded quickly, her eyes bright with a mix of awe and nervousness. Yes, Supreme Seraph. Zenobia adjusted the strap of her sword and gave a sharp nod. Understood. The journey was not long. Heaven's authority carried us. When the light faded, the great walls and spires of the Vatican rose around us. Its stones gleamed pale in the sun, its towers tall, its bells sounding across the city. Mortals moved in the streets below, their voices carrying faintly, unaware of the weight of what stood within their walls. At the entrance to the central cathedral, armed exorcists and high priests waited. Their eyes widened at the sight of me, and many lowered themselves to one knee, their heads bowed. None spoke until an elder priest stepped forward, his robes white and gold, his face lined with age, but his gaze steady. Supreme Seraph, he said, his voice carrying reverence, we are honored beyond measure. Please this way. I gave a short nod. Lead. Irina and Zenobia followed at my sides as we entered. The interior of the cathedral stretched vast and ordered, its pillars rising high, its windows painted with the images of saints and martyrs. Priests and nuns moved with precision through the aisles, their heads turning as we passed. The sound of their prayers filled the air, steady and unbroken. At the end of the nave, a hall had been prepared. The senior cardinals of the church gathered there, their robes crimson, their expressions solemn. Behind them stood knights of the church, armored and watchful. The elder priest gestured for us to enter. The leaders of the church await you. I stepped forward, my armored form catching the glow of the candles. My wings spread behind me, their presence filling the chamber. The cardinals rose to their feet at once. Some lowered their heads, others pressed their hands together in prayer. The one at the center spoke first, his voice steady but reverent. Artoria Pendragon, Supreme Seraph of Heaven, we never thought to see the day you would stand among us again. Your name has been carried in story and prayer for centuries. I stopped before them, my voice even and unyielding. I stand once more. Heaven's will does not falter. If the church calls, I will hear. Their eyes shone with awe, some with relief. The central cardinal inclined his head. Then allow us to speak plainly. The world has grown restless. Devils rise in number. Fallen stir in shadows. Humanity stands between. We serve as heaven's hand in the mortal realm, but our strength is limited. With your presence, we are steadied. Zenobia shifted slightly beside me, her eyes moving over the assembled men, her hand resting lightly on her sword. Irina stood straighter, her gaze fixed on me with clear pride. Another cardinal spoke, his tone more strained. Already word spreads of your return. It reaches beyond our walls. The faithful speak of it with reverence. But others wonder what it means. Will heaven strike again? Will the Supreme Seraph lead us into war? I met his gaze directly. I will not lead you into war without cause. My presence is not a banner of conquest. It is a shield. If devils or fallen seek to break the order, they will be stopped. If they do not, they will not be struck. The cardinal lowered his head, his shoulders easing slightly. The central figure spoke again. Then allow us this request. Lend your presence openly here in Rome before the faithful. If they see you, if they hear your voice, their strength will not waver. Irina's eyes widened faintly, her hands clasping together. Zenovia's lips pressed in thought, but she remained silent. I considered only for a moment. Then I will stand before them. Let them see heaven is not silent. Relief spread across the chamber. The cardinals bowed their heads deeply. That afternoon, the square before St. Peter's Basilica filled with the faithful. Thousands stood shoulder to shoulder, their voices quiet, their prayers rising together. The bells tolled, their sound carrying across the city. I stepped forward onto the platform prepared before the cathedral doors. My wings unfolded in full, vast and white, casting radiance across the square. The sound of voices hushed at once. Irina and Zenobia stood behind me, their expressions solemn, their posture disciplined. The cardinals watched from the steps, their faces lifted with awe. I raised my hand. My voice carried clearly, every word steady. I am Artoria Pendragon, supreme seraph of heaven. I stand once more in this world. The silence deepened. Thousands listened. Heaven is not weakened. Its will is not silent. Devils and fallen move, but they will not break us. The faithful need not waver. Stand firm. Hold to your path. You are not alone. A murmur swept through the crowd, not unrest, but fervor. Many lowered to their knees. Others raised their hands in prayer. Tears shone in the eyes of some. The weight of the moment carried through them all. I lowered my hand. Return to your lives, serve with faith. Heaven watches. The square erupted in prayer, the voices of thousands rising together. I turned and stepped back inside the cathedral. That evening, within the hall of the Vatican, the senior exorcists gathered. Knights clad in silver armor, their blades at their sides, stood in ordered lines. Among them were familiar faces to Irina and Zenobia, those who had trained with them, those who had fought beside them. The commander of their order, a stern man with close-cropped hair, stepped forward. Supreme Seraph, with your return, we await your command. The armies of the church are yours to direct. I looked over them all, their armor gleaming under the candlelight, their eyes sharp and steady. You will continue your duties, protect the faithful, strike when devils or fallen trespass. Do not act without cause. Order is preserved not by endless strikes, but by strength held ready. You are the sword of the church. Let it be known, and let it be steady. Their voices rose in unison. Yes, Supreme Seraph. That night, in a smaller chamber, Irina spoke quietly as we prepared to rest. Supreme Seraph, to see the faithful like that, to see their strength rise just by knowing you stand, it was incredible. Zenobia adjusted her blade, her voice lower. The church will move with greater certainty now. Your presence commands it. I met their gazes evenly. Then they will remain steady. That is what matters. Chapter 11, Clash with Cockabeel. The peace of Quo had not lasted. It was Zenobia who came to me first, her voice sharp, her expression tense. Supreme Seraph, reports confirm it. Cockabeel himself has entered Japan. His aura has been felt near Quo. Irina's face paled. Cockabeel, one of the Carders, why would he come here? Zenovia's hand gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. He's not subtle. If he's here, it means he's preparing for something reckless, likely war. I rose from where I had been seated within the church hall, my armor shifting with the motion, my wings folding with purpose. Then we will meet him. He will not be allowed to disrupt the balance. Irina's eyes widened. You mean to face him directly? Yes, I said, my voice firm. He is a Carder of the fallen. He has no right to move without challenge. His presence alone threatens the order. We will not permit it. Zenobia bowed her head sharply. Understood. Irina exhaled, then straightened her posture. Then we'll follow you. Night had fallen when we reached the outskirts of Quo Academy. The town lay quiet, but the sky above was disturbed. Dark clouds gathering unnaturally, thunder growling low in the distance. His aura was unmistakable, violent, burning, filled with hunger for conflict. We approached the grounds of the school. The barrier erected around it shimmered faintly, concealing the activity within from human eyes. Inside, the courtyard was in chaos. Cockabeel stood at the center, his black wings spread wide, vast and gleaming with corrupted light. His form was tall, his expression twisted with excitement. Around him, fallen light spears struck into the earth, leaving cracks and burns. Before him stood Ria's Gremory and her peerage. Their stances were defensive, their expressions tense. Beside them, Sona Citri and her servants had also gathered. Their forces together held the line, but their faces showed the strain of confronting a being far beyond them. Cockabeel laughed, his voice sharp, echoing. This is what the devils call strength. A handful of children, heirs playing at war, pathetic. I expected more from the Gremory and Citri houses. Rhea's jaw tightened. Cockabeel, you will not bring your war here. Leave, or we will fight. He sneered. Fight? You're not even a fraction of your ancestors. You think your names make you warriors. His eyes turned upward then, as if sensing us before we even crossed the barrier. His grin widened. Ah, now this is interesting. I stepped through, wings unfolding, armor shining as my boots struck the courtyard stone. Irina and Zenobia followed close, their blades drawn. All movement stopped. The devils froze, their eyes widening. Rhea's peerage stared, Kiba stiffening, Aquino's faint smile fading, Koniko watching silently with narrowed eyes. Sona's gaze sharpened, her arms folding, her queen Tsubaki tense at her side. And Cockabeel's grin only grew. Well, well, the rumors were true, the supreme seraph herself. His laugh rang harsh. Artoria Pendragon, heaven's knight, heaven's blade, the one even Michael measured against. And here you are, standing before me. I raised my blade, summoning it into my hand, its holy light cutting through the darkness of his aura. My voice carried clear and cold. Cockabeel, you trespass. Withdraw at once or be erased. His grin twisted further. Erase me. Do you think I came here to play? No, I came for war, to finish what was never ended, to tear the silence apart. And if I must start with you, then so be it. Irina shouted, stepping beside me, her sword raised. Supreme Seraph commands you to leave. This is your last chance. Cockabeel laughed at her words, his voice mocking. And the little believers think they can stand with her. How quaint. Zenobia stepped forward as well, her eyes sharp, her blade steady. Mock us if you wish. It won't save you when your blood stains the earth. Cockabeel spread his wings wide, dozens of spears of dark light forming around him, their points aimed at us all. Then let us begin. The battle erupted instantly. His spears rained down, tearing into the courtyard with explosive force. Stones shattered, dust rose, fire burst. The devils scrambled to shield themselves, barriers forming, Aquino calling lightning to meet his strikes, Sona's magic weaving to protect her servants. I raised my blade and cut through the storm. Each strike of my sword shattered a spear, their corrupted light breaking against holy steel. I stepped forward unshaken, my wings spreading to shield Irina and Zenobia as they advanced with me. Stay close, I commanded. Yes, Supreme Seraph, Irina's voice rang with determination. Cockabeel appeared before me in a rush, his wings beating with violent force, a spear of immense power forming in his hand. He struck downward, the ground cracking beneath the weight of it. I raised my blade, steel meeting corrupted light. The impact shook the courtyard, the shockwave sending debris scattering. You've grown weaker, he shouted, pressing harder. Where is the fury of heaven's wars? Where is the bloodlust? My voice cut back evenly, unshaken. I am no butcher, I am duty. I forced his weapon aside and struck. My blade tore across his guard, light burning against his form. He staggered back, his grin faltering, but he only laughed again. Yes, this is what I wanted, the seraph who does not yield. Irina and Zenobia struck then, their swords cutting at his sides. Cockabeel turned with sharp motions, blocking Irina's strike with a wing of black light, catching Zenovia's blade with his spear. He kicked them both back with brutal force, sending them sliding across the stone. They rose again at once, their eyes blazing with determination. We're not finished, Irina cried. Supreme Seraph, we fight with you, Zenobia shouted. Rhea's called from behind, her voice tense. Stay alive, both of you. Her peerage shifted, trying to press forward, but Cockabeel's aura pushed them back. Only I could stand before him without faltering. Cockabeel raised his hand, energy surging. A massive spear formed above him, larger than any before, its light darkened with corruption, its power radiating destruction. He aimed it at the devils. They will be erased first, he roared. I stepped forward, my blade rising, my voice ringing across the field. You will not touch them. Light surged along my sword. With one swing, I cleaved the massive spear apart. Its fragments scattered harmlessly, dissolving into the air. Cockerbeel's eyes widened. Then his grin returned, wilder than before. Perfect. This is perfect. Show me more. Show me the power they feared. He lunged again, his strikes faster, heavier, filled with frenzy. Our blades clashed again and again, each impact shaking the ground, light bursting across the night sky. His laughter echoed, but beneath it was strain. His strikes grew less controlled, his movements more desperate. Irina and Zenobia cut in at his flanks, forcing him to guard. Rhea's magic surged from behind, red power striking his side. Sona's spells followed, sharp and precise. Cockerbeel staggered, his guard faltering under the combined assault. I advanced. My blade struck through his spear, shattered it, and cut across his chest. Light burned, his cry sharp and filled with fury. He fell back, his wings beating wildly, his aura flaring with violent desperation. Damn you! You think this ends me? I am Cockerbeel. I will burn the world before I yield. I raised my blade again, its point leveled at him. Then burn alone. This ends now. He howled and charged, his wings tearing the air. I met him head on. My strike cut through his guard, through his fury, through his body. His form tore apart in the light, his scream echoing until it faded into silence. The battlefield fell still. Irina exhaled sharply, lowering her blade. It's over. Zenobia sheathed her sword, her eyes steady. He is gone. The devils of Kuo lowered their guards, their relief visible. Rhea's exhaled, her expression taut but steady. Supreme Seraph, you saved us. I lowered my blade, letting it vanish from my hand. My voice was cold, even. I saved the order. Do not mistake it for favor. Rhea's bowed her head slightly, accepting the words without argument. Irina and Zenobia stood at my sides, their posture straight, their resolve clear. The night was quiet again, but Kuo had changed. Chapter 12. Two lords arrive. The courtyard of Kuo Academy was ruined. The earth was torn, walls cracked, and air thick with the stench of burned stone where Cockerbeel's light spears had struck. Dust lingered faintly, but silence had fallen. Irina stood to my right, her breath still heavy but her sword steady at her side. Zenobia was on my left, her grip firm on her weapon though her eyes remained sharp and calm. Rhea's and her peerage stood further back, their postures tense, their relief quiet. Sona Citri and her servants remained with them, their barriers lowered but their gazes cautious. I lowered my blade, letting the holy steel dissolve into light. Cockerbeel is ended, I said plainly. Irina exhaled, her voice shaking slightly before she steadied herself. He was a Carder, but even he couldn't stand against you, Supreme Seraph. Zenobia gave a short nod. One less threat to heaven, to all of us. The devils murmured quietly among themselves. Kiba's gaze remained on me with measured weight. Akino's smile had returned faintly, but it did not reach her eyes. Koniko's silence continued, her small hands clenched tightly at her sides. Rhea's herself remained steady, though I could see in her eyes the struggle between pride as a gremmery and recognition of what had just passed before her. The sky above shifted suddenly. The barrier shimmered. A new aura pressed down, vast and heavy, yet steady and measured. Not violent like Cockerbeel's, not corrupted like the Fallen, but overwhelming nonetheless. A magic circle of crimson flared into being across the courtyard stones. From it stepped Surzech Lucifer. His crimson hair flowed lightly as he moved forward, his expression calm but serious. At his side stood Graphia, her silver hair precise, her face composed, her aura quiet but sharp as steel. The devils of Kuo straightened immediately, bowing their heads with respect. Rhea's bowed slightly deeper. Oni-sama. Surzech gave her a short nod, then turned his eyes toward me. His gaze was steady, his presence unshaken, but his expression held weight. Before he could speak, another presence descended. The light of heaven split the night sky, pure and absolute. A magic circle of white radiance formed opposite the Devil King, and Michael stepped through. His wings unfolded as he walked, his expression calm, his gaze resting on the destruction. Gabriel did not accompany him, but two high-class angels followed at a respectful distance, their faces solemn. The devils stiffened at his arrival, but Serzech did not move. His composure did not falter. He simply turned his eyes briefly toward Michael, then back to me. The balance of the world itself had gathered in one ruined schoolyard. Michael's voice carried first, calm but firm. Cockabeel is no more. The threat to the balance here has been ended. By your hand, Artoria. I inclined my head slightly. He moved without restraint. His existence threatened the order. He was judged and struck down. Serzech stepped forward, his tone controlled, measured. And in his place, you now stand in Kuo openly. Heaven's supreme seraph, the one whose presence changes the balance itself. This was not unexpected, but now it is undeniable. Irina shifted beside me, her expression tight. Zenovia's eyes narrowed faintly. Riaz spoke quietly, respectful but with faint tension. Oni Isama, Supreme Seraph, only moved because Cockabeel forced the battle. Without her, we would have fallen. Serzech glanced at her, then back to me. That I do not question, Cockabeel's madness was his own, but his death by your hand will not go unnoticed. Michael stepped closer. His voice remained calm. It cannot be ignored, Serzech, but it cannot be condemned either. Cockabeel chose this path. He forced this confrontation. The Supreme Seraph acted as she was meant to act. Serzech folded his arms lightly, his gaze not leaving me. Then let us speak plainly. Heaven's blade stands now in Kuo. I do not object to her presence, but I must know. Will you remain as guardian or as judge? The difference matters greatly to us. I met his eyes without flinching, my voice steady nightly. I remain as heaven's presence, not to provoke, not to seek war, but if devils or fallen act beyond restraint, I will answer without hesitation. That is my oath. The courtyard fell quiet again. Serzech's gaze held mine for a long moment before he inclined his head slightly. Then Kuo remains under my sister's protection, but with heaven's presence now openly here, we will tread carefully. Michael turned his gaze toward him, his tone unwavering. Then let us agree. Kuo will not be the spark of another war. Devils will restrain themselves. Heaven will restrain itself, and fallen who step beyond will be ended as Cockabeel was. Serzech gave a short nod. Agreed. Riaz looked at the ground briefly, then at me. Her voice was lower. Then, I understand. Kuo is not mine alone anymore. Grafia spoke softly at her side, her tone firm but even. Do not see it as lessening, Riaz Sama. The presence of the Supreme Seraph here is not to diminish your duty, but to preserve it. Riaz's lips pressed together, but she gave a short nod. Michael stepped closer to me, his voice low but carrying. Artoria, your presence has already shifted the balance across the world. Devils and fallen both will weigh every action now. This was inevitable, but it must be carried with steadiness. Yes, I said, I will not falter. Serzech's tone was calm but firm. Then see that you do not. The world is watching. If we are careless, there will be no turning back. Irina exhaled quietly behind me, her voice almost a whisper. This is bigger than I thought. Zenovia's grip tightened on her sword, her gaze still sharp. And it has only just begun. I gave them both a short nod. Be ready. This is our post now. We will hold it. The night stretched on. Michael spoke quietly with Serzech, their tones firm but without hostility. Gabriel's absence was noted, but her voice had already been clear through Michael's authority. At last, Serzech turned to his sister. Riaz, you will remain vigilant. The Supreme Seraph's presence here will draw attention, but you will not act recklessly. Do you understand? Yes, Oni Isama, she said quietly. Grafia's expression softened faintly, but her tone remained formal. Then we will return. There is much to prepare. With a sweep of his cloak, Serzech turned. The crimson circle flared beneath him, and with Grafia at his side, he vanished into the light. The courtyard grew quieter. Michael faced me once more. Your duty here continues. Report to heaven regularly. I will remain in contact. But for now, you will stand as heaven's hand in QO. I inclined my head. It will be done. He gave a short nod. His light formed again, surrounding him and the angels at his side. Then, until we speak again. He too was gone. Only the devils of QO, my knights, and I remained in the ruined courtyard. Riaz stepped forward slightly, her expression tired but steady. Supreme Seraph, for what it's worth, thank you. Without you, we wouldn't have survived Cockabeel. I looked at her evenly. You survived because you did not yield. That is what matters. Hold to it. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile, though pride still lingered in her eyes. We will. Her peerage gathered around her. They left quietly, their steps careful, their glances backward lingering on me. Sona followed soon after, her queen at her side. She paused only once, her gaze sharp and assessing, before turning and departing with her servants. At last, silence returned. Irina exhaled slowly, her face pale but filled with awe. Supreme Seraph, the way they all looked at you. Devils, angels, even Michael himself. Everything feels different now. Zenovia's voice was steady. Because everything is different. The Supreme Seraph stands in QO. No one can ignore it. I turned toward the ruined academy, my voice calm and resolute. Then let them watch. We will remain. We will hold. That is all that must be done. Chapter 13, Council of Heaven. The ruins of QO Academy were still fresh in my mind when the summons arrived. The parchment bore Michael's seal, radiant with heaven's light. It carried few words, but its command was absolute. Return at once. The seraphs and captains await. We will speak of Cockabeel. I set the parchment down on the altar. Irina and Zenovia stood before me, their eyes watching closely. Supreme Seraph, Irina said, her voice filled with concern. Are you leaving tonight? Yes, I replied, my tone steady. The matter cannot wait. Michael calls and I will answer. You will remain in QO. Keep your watch steady. Report if devils or fallen move. Zenovia gave a sharp nod. It will be done. Irina pressed her hand to her chest, her face filled with determination. We won't let you down. I inclined my head to them both. See that you do not. The light of heaven surrounded me as I stepped through the circle. The weight of the human world faded, replaced by radiance unbroken, eternal. I emerged into the central chamber of heaven's great hall, its pillars rising high, its floor gleaming white stone. The air carried silence, but it was not empty. It was filled with purpose. Michael awaited at the head of the chamber, his wings spread behind him, his presence calm and steady as ever. Gabriel stood at his side, her face soft but her eyes firm. Raphael and Uriel stood as well, their expressions serious. Around them gathered the captains of heaven's armies, armored and disciplined, their gazes fixed upon me as I entered. The chamber quieted further. All eyes were on me. Michael's voice carried evenly across the hall. Artoria Pendragon, Supreme Seraph, you return from QO with Cockabeel ended. The world now turns its eyes to us. Speak, tell us of this battle. I stepped forward, the steel of my boots ringing against the stone. My wings spread slightly, my voice calm but clear. Cockabeel entered QO without restraint. His purpose was war. He sought to provoke devils, to force blood into the open. He threatened not only devils but mortals. His actions were beyond judgment. I struck him down. Murmurs spread through the captains, some sharp, others approving. Raphael's eyes narrowed slightly, his tone measured. So he was destroyed utterly. Yes, I said. His form is ended. His voice will not rise again. Uriel crossed his arms, his tone sharp. Then one of the cadres of the fallen is gone. That will not be ignored. The Grigori will react. Gabriel's voice was soft, yet steady. Azazel is not Cockabeel. He does not seek war, but his cadre's death will weigh heavily. Michael lifted his hand slightly, silencing the whispers. His gaze remained on me. And what of the devils? You struck in their territory, in front of their heirs, their peerages, even Sirzech himself. I answered plainly. They witnessed. They did not resist me. They understood I acted against Cockerbiel, not against them. Sirzech accepted this. He spoke with you after, and we agreed. Cure will not be the spark of war. Michael's expression remained steady, but his voice held weight. Yet they also saw heaven's blade unleashed. That image will not fade quickly. I inclined my head slightly. Let it not fade. Fear will keep restraint. Uriel frowned faintly, his voice low. Or provoke challenge. Gabriel's gaze softened. But it will protect mortals. That is what matters. Raphael turned to Michael. Then we must decide. Will she remain in Quo openly, or do we recall her to lessen the pressure on the balance? Michael considered in silence for a moment, his wings folding slightly. Then his gaze returned to me. What say you, Artoria? You stood there. You judged Cockerbiel. You faced Sirzech. Do you believe your presence in Quo must remain? I stepped closer, standing at the center of the hall. My voice was resolute. Yes, Quo is a point of tension. Devils gather there. Fallen move there. Mortals are caught between. If heaven withdraws, it leaves devils free and fallen emboldened. If heaven remains, the order is preserved. I will hold it myself. The chamber grew quiet again. The captains watched with tense faces. Some nodded faintly. Others frowned wary. Uriel broke the silence. Then it is decided. But know this, your presence there binds us all. If you are challenged, if devils move, if fallen answer, the whole of heaven will be drawn with you. I know, I said. That is why restraint must be held. But if they test me, I will not falter. Michael's voice carried again, calm and final. Then it will be as you say. You will remain in Quo. Report directly to me. If the devils or fallen question, they will answer to us together. Gabriel smiled faintly, her hands folded before her. Then heaven is steadied. When the formal council ended, Michael called me aside to a private chamber. The walls were quieter here, the light softer. He looked at me directly. Artoria, you carry this weight now, not only as heaven's sword, but as its face in the mortal world. Cockerbiel's death has begun something. The devils, the fallen, even mortals of the church will react. You must hold steady, but you cannot do it alone. I inclined my head. Irina and Zenobia serve with me. They are steady, but they are not yet sharpened enough. I will forge them. Michael gave a faint nod. Good, they will need to grow quickly. He paused, his expression thoughtful. And Azazel will come. He will not ignore Cockerbiel's death. He will want words with you. Then he may speak, I said evenly, but words will not sway me. Michael's lips curved faintly, almost a smile. I expected no less. Later, Gabriel sought me in the halls. Her expression was kind, but her voice was serious. Artoria, when you stood in Quo in front of devils and mortals alike, the faithful felt it across the world. Already the Vatican speaks of it. Priests and knights look to you as proof heaven's strength has not faded. They may look, I said, but it changes nothing. My duty remains the same. Her smile softened. Perhaps, but do not forget, strength is not only for war. To mortals it is hope. To see you is to believe they are not abandoned. I did not answer at once. Finally, I said, then let them hold to that. If it steadies them, it is enough. She gave a small nod, her expression serene. That is all that is needed. When my time in heaven ended, Michael summoned me once more to the central chamber. His tone was final. Return to Quo. Hold your ground. If Azazel approaches, I will know. If devils move, I will know. We will not waver. I bowed my head slightly. It will be done. The light carried me again, returning me to the human world. At the church in Quo, Irina and Zenobia were waiting. Irina rushed forward, her eyes wide. Supreme Seraph, you're back. What did Michael say? I met her eyes evenly. That I remain here, this is our post, and we will hold it. Zenobia gave a sharp nod, her grip tightening on her sword. Then nothing changes. Good. I looked to them both. Train harder, stand straighter. We will not know when the next strike comes, but when it does, we will meet it without falter. Yes, Supreme Seraph, they answered together. The night in Cure was quiet again, but the silence carried weight. Heaven had spoken, I would remain, and the world was watching. Chapter 14, The Devil King's Env. The church was quiet that evening. The candles burned low on the altar, their flames steady, the faint smell of wax clinging to the air. Irina sat at one of the benches, humming faintly as she polished her sword. Zenobia was at the far end of the hall, sharpening her blade with deliberate strokes, her face calm but focused. I stood near the altar, watching the flames. Since returning from heaven, the air around Cure had felt heavier. The devils knew I remained. The fallen would not ignore Cockerbeel's death, and the humans of the church had already begun whispering of my presence more openly. It was then that the knock came at the church door. 3 sharp raps, precise, controlled. Zenobia immediately looked up, her hands still on her blade. Someone's here. Irina straightened quickly, setting her sword aside. At this hour. I raised my hand, and they fell silent. I crossed the hall, my boots striking firmly against the stone, and opened the door. She stood there. Graphia Lucifuge. Her silver hair was tied neatly, her maid attire flawless, her face calm but her eyes sharp. Her aura was quiet, but there was no mistaking the weight of her presence. Supreme Seraph, she said, bowing her head slightly in greeting. I am Graphia Lucifuge, servant of Serzech Lucifer. My lord has sent me to deliver his words to you. Irina's eyes widened. That's... Zenobia gave her a look, and Irina clamped her mouth shut, though her gaze lingered with open curiosity. I met Graphia's eyes evenly. Speak them. She straightened. Serzech Lucifer requests a private audience with you, not in battle, not in hostility. He wishes to speak directly. The matter of Cockerbeel has made this necessary. Where? I asked plainly. Graphia did not hesitate. A neutral ground. The same abandoned cathedral where the first trifaction meeting was held. He asks for you to come alone, though he accepts your retinue if you insist. I studied her quietly for a moment. Her composure did not waver. I will come, I said. Graphia bowed her head again. Then tomorrow night, at dusk. Without another word, she turned and walked away, her steps quiet, her aura fading into the distance. I closed the door. Irina immediately hurried forward, her eyes wide. Supreme Seraph, that was Graphia, Serzech's queen. Why would he ask for you directly? Because he must, I said simply. He is a devil king. Cockerbeel's death by my hand cannot be left unanswered in silence. He does not come to threaten, he comes to weigh. Zenobia crossed her arms, her tone firm. Then we should be ready, if he tries anything. He will not, I interrupted, my voice calm but final. Serzech is not Cockerbeel. He has no desire for reckless war, but he will test, I will answer. The following night, I left the church. Irina and Zenobia both accompanied me, their blades at their sides, their postures sharp with discipline. We moved swiftly through the town until we reached the edge where the abandoned cathedral stood, its stone walls broken, its windows shattered, but its structure still holding. The doors were open, light flickered faintly within. I entered first, my armor echoing against the old stone floor. Irina and Zenobia followed closely. At the far end of the hall, Serzech Lucifer waited. He was dressed not in his armor of war, but in a formal robe of crimson, his long hair flowing neatly behind him. Graphia stood at his side, silent and still. Serzech's eyes turned toward me as I entered. His expression was calm, his smile faint but not mocking. Supreme Seraph, thank you for coming. I stopped several paces before him, my wings folded neatly behind me, my gaze steady. You asked. I came. Speak. Irina and Zenobia stood slightly behind me, their hands on their blades, their eyes locked on the 2 devils before us. Serzech studied me quietly for a moment before speaking. The battle with Cockabeel has already shaken the balance. His death will echo. Devils know it. Fallen know it. The world knows it. I came here not to condemn, but to understand. You wish to weigh me, I said. He inclined his head slightly. Yes, devils cannot ignore the supreme seraph standing openly in Kuo. My sister and her peerage already know your presence. Sona Sitri has seen it, and now the entire underworld waits to see what comes next. Irina whispered faintly behind me, so even the underworld. Zenobia gave her a sharp look, and Irina went quiet. Serzet's gaze did not move from mine. I must ask, Artoria Pendragon, are you in Kuo as heaven's sword to strike, or as its shield to watch? My voice carried evenly across the chamber. I am here to preserve the order. If devils restrain themselves, they will not find me as their foe. If they provoke, I will answer without hesitation. That is my role. Serzets was silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he gave a faint nod. Then I can accept that. But understand, if you stand in Kuo, every movement of devils there is under your eyes. That will not go unnoticed. They will feel the weight of you whether you intend it or not. That is the purpose, I said firmly. His faint smile returned, though it did not reach his eyes. Direct, as always. I cannot fault you for it. Graphia spoke for the first time, her tone calm but carrying weight. Supreme Seraph, if you remain in Kuo, then peace depends on restraint from all. Devils will not provoke, but if every movement is judged as hostility, conflict will come whether we wish it or not. I met her eyes evenly. Then devils will choose wisely. That is their duty, as it is mine. Irina shifted slightly, her expression uneasy, but Zenovia's eyes remained fixed on the two before us. Serzec finally exhaled quietly. Then I will take your words back to the underworld. Let them know the supreme seraph does not come to erase, but nor does she bend. I gave a short nod. Do so, and know that if you keep peace, I will not strike. He studied me once more, then inclined his head respectfully. Then, I believe we understand each other. He turned to Graphia. She stepped forward and bowed her head slightly. Then our audience is concluded. Serzec gave me one last glance before his magic circle flared beneath him. Crimson light filled the air, and he and Graphia vanished. The hall fell silent. Irina exhaled sharply, her shoulders dropping slightly. That was not as bad as I thought, but the way he looked at you, supreme seraph, like he was measuring every word, every breath. Zenobia sheathed her sword, her expression stern. He was. He came to test, and now he'll carry every word back to the underworld. I turned toward the doors, my voice steady. Then let them hear. It changes nothing. We will hold Kuo. We left the cathedral, the cool night air surrounding us. The streets of the town were quiet, but the silence carried weight. Devils had spoken. Heaven had spoken. The balance remained, but it was fragile. Chapter 15. Gabriel descends. The night after Serzec's envoy had departed, the church was silent once more. The candles burned low at the altar, faint smoke drifting from their wicks. Irina had retired early, her exhaustion clear after days of tension, while Zenobia remained awake, sharpening her sword with steady focus in the small chamber beside the nave. I stood alone before the altar, the cross above me bathed faintly in the moonlight that pierced through the window. Kuo was still. Yet even in stillness, I could feel the watchful eyes of devils, the distant stirrings of fallen, the quiet prayers of mortals. The weight of my presence pressed on them all. It was then that the air shifted. The scent of lilies touched the hall, faint but distinct. The candles burned brighter for a moment, their flames steady. The sound of wings, pure and radiant, whispered in the silence. I turned. She was there. Gabriel descended with a radiance that filled the church, her long golden hair gleaming, her white robes falling around her like flowing silk. Her wings spread wide, brilliant and untainted, their glow soft but undeniable. Her face, serene and kind, carried warmth, but her eyes, gentle as they were, held firmness. Artoria, she said softly. Her voice was calm, each word carrying grace. I inclined my head slightly. Gabriel, you have come in person. She smiled faintly, stepping closer. Yes, I wish to see you with my own eyes. Michael has spoken of your return, but words are not the same as presence. Zenobia, alerted by the sound of her arrival, entered the nave quickly. She froze at the sight, her sword still in her hand, her eyes wide. Lady Gabriel. Gabriel turned to her with a gentle smile. Zenobia Quarter, I remember your name. You serve with diligence. Zenovia's posture stiffened, her voice almost reverent. To hear my name from you is an honor. Irina stumbled into the hall moments later, clearly roused from her rest. Her eyes widened, her face lighting with awe. Lady Gabriel, she nearly tripped in her haste to kneel, her hands clasped together tightly. You're really here. Gabriel's smile softened further. Rise, Irina. You need not bow so deeply. Your heart is already bowed in faith. That is enough. Irina rose slowly, her face flushed with emotion, unable to hide her joy. I stepped forward, my tone even. Why have you come, Gabriel? Your presence here cannot be hidden. The devils will feel it. The fallen will feel it. Her expression turned more serious. Yes, that is why I came quietly without escort. Only Michael knows I am here. I folded my arms lightly. Then speak. She walked further into the hall, her hands folded before her, her steps unhurried. You struck down Cockabeel. The world stirs because of it. Devils measure you. Fallen will answer soon. And the church already whispers of the supreme seraph walking in the mortal world. You stand not only as our blade, Artoria, but as our presence. Her eyes softened, though her voice did not falter. I came to see how you carry it, to see how you stand here among mortals with devils watching you from the shadows. I stand as I always have, I answered plainly. With purpose, with duty. Cockabeel was madness. He had to be ended. Devils know restraint now because they saw me. That is all that matters. Gabriel tilted her head slightly, studying me. You speak as firmly as Michael, but your weight feels different. His words carry calm. Yours carry finality. Irina spoke quickly, her voice filled with awe. Supreme Seraph doesn't waver, Lady Gabriel. Against Cockabeel, against devils. She didn't falter for even a moment. Zenobia added, her tone sharp but respectful. She holds the line, even when everything else threatens to break. Gabriel's gaze softened on them both. I see. Then you follow her without hesitation. Yes, they said together, almost in unison. Gabriel looked back to me, her expression serene but firm. And what of mortals, Artoria? You say devils restrain because they fear you, but what of humans? How do they see you? Humans do not know me, I said. They cannot. If they did, their lives would not remain their own. Mortals must live as mortals. I will not interfere unless the balance forces me. Her smile faded, her expression more serious now. Yet they already whisper of you in Rome. They speak of your name. They speak of the knight who walks again. Whether you will it or not, you are a symbol to them. I was silent for a moment. Then I said, if it steadies them, let them speak. If it stirs them to act foolishly, I will correct them. I am no idol. I am duty. Gabriel nodded slowly, her gaze lingering on me. At last, her expression softened again. I understand. You remain as you always were. That is why Michael trusts you without hesitation. Irina stepped closer, her eyes bright. Lady Gabriel, will you stay long, just to guide us, even for a little while? Gabriel smiled warmly, reaching out to touch Irina's shoulder. I cannot stay long, child. My presence would draw too much attention, but I wish to see you as well. You have grown, Irina. Irina's face flushed, her voice caught in her throat. I won't let you down, Lady Gabriel. Gabriel looked at Zenobia next. And you, Zenobia, you are steady, disciplined. That steadiness will serve heaven well. But remember, strength is not only to cut, it is also to guard. Zenobia bowed her head slightly. I will remember, Lady Gabriel. Gabriel turned back to me then. I will return soon to heaven, but I wish to give you this, not as command, but as counsel. She stepped closer. Her voice was low, but it carried through the hall. When Azazel comes, and he will, you must see more than his words. He does not seek war as Cockabeel did. He seeks understanding. Do not mistake one for the other. Irina stiffened. Azazel, he's coming here. Gabriel's eyes flicked to her gently. Yes, Cockabeel's death leaves him no choice. He will come to Kuo, and he will seek the supreme seraph himself. Zenovia's hand tightened on her sword. Then let him come. If he seeks to test, we will meet him. I spoke calmly. Then I will answer him myself. If he speaks of restraint, he will find me measured. If he speaks of provocation, he will find me unyielding. That is all. Gabriel's gaze softened further. Then heaven is in good hands. I am glad I came to see you. The light around her began to glow brighter, her wings spreading. Irina stepped forward quickly, her voice pleading. Lady Gabriel, don't leave so soon. Gabriel touched her shoulder lightly, smiling. You will see me again, Irina. Train hard, stand firm, serve faithfully. That will bring us together sooner than you think. Her gaze lingered on me once more, her expression serene. Farewell for now, Artoria. I inclined my head. Gabriel. With that, the light consumed her form, and she vanished, leaving only the faint scent of lilies in the air. The church was quiet again. Irina stood frozen for a moment, then let out a long breath, her face flushed with awe. Lady Gabriel, she was here. She really came here. Zenovia's expression remained stern, but there was a faint softness in her eyes. Her words were clear. Azazel will come. We must be ready. I turned toward them both, my voice firm. Then we will be ready. Train harder. Watch closer. When he comes, we will answer. Yes, Supreme Seraph, they both said at once, their voices strong. The candles flickered softly in the hall, the silence heavy once more. But the air carried weight. The meeting had ended, but the path forward was already set. Chapter 16. The Governor-General's Visit. The church was calm. Morning light spilled through the stained-glass windows, casting ordered patterns across the stone floor. Irina sat at one of the benches, polishing her sword, her lips pressed together in concentration. Zenovia leaned against a pillar, her blade across her lap, her eyes sharp but distant. I stood near the altar, watching quietly. Gabriel's words from the night before lingered, but I did not dwell on them. The path ahead was already clear. It was then that the air shifted. Not the holy light of heaven, not the heavy stillness of devils. This presence was different. It carried no hostility, but it was not clean. It was sharp, clever, layered with ease, yet beneath it was undeniable strength. The church door creaked open. Irina looked up instantly, her hand flying to her blade. Zenovia rose to her feet at once, her weapon in her grip. A man stepped inside. Tall, lean, with sharp features. His hair was dark, streaked with light brown, and his eyes gleamed with mischief, even as his mouth curved in a faint, knowing smile. He wore a long coat, simple but well-fitted, and his steps were casual, as if he had no fear of the holy ground beneath his feet. Azazel, Governor-General of the Fallen Angels. Irina's eyes widened. You. Zenovia's stance lowered, her blade rising slightly. Azazel. He raised one hand lazily, his smile widening faintly. Relax, children. I'm not here to pick a fight. I came to talk. Irina's grip tightened on her sword. You have no right to enter here. I raised my hand slightly. Stand down. They hesitated, then lowered their blades reluctantly, though their eyes never left him. Azazel's gaze turned to me fully. His grin shifted, more interested than mocking now. So the rumors were true. Artoria Pendragon, standing here in the human world, the supreme